Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. And welcome to this iteration of It's Your Budget. Again, welcome to this afternoon's budget workshop. We're going to go ahead and get started. The mayor will be joining us as soon as possible, but we want to go ahead and get started. We know it's a long day, and so I know the guys got their pencils all sharpened and gals got their pencils all sharpened and ready to go, and so we don't want to delay. Mr. Manager?
This is a budget workshop, single issue workshop. We do these throughout the year as we're preparing the budget. Today we'll do an update on where we stand in this year's budget and look forward and share information about our upcoming fiscal year 2026 budget. I would generally characterize where we are in the process as being on track. I think budgets are always hard. They're never easy. I'm not sure I recall a year where we said we'll have more money than we spend. Those are not typical years. And so the team has to work really hard to make sure we find a balanced budget that meets your priorities. And these meetings are helpful to get your feedback. Robert Wiggin and his team done a good job, and again, I think we're on track for this year's priorities. So with that, I'll turn it over to Robert. He's got a presentation, and we'll have to answer any questions.
All right. Yep. Thank you, City Manager. Mayor Pro Tem, commissioners, appointed officials, members of the public, welcome to our fiscal year workshop, where we will discuss, as Reese mentioned, the fiscal year 25 second quarter update. We'll also talk about how funds are being balanced during this fiscal year, what impacts there are. The positive news is we expect 13 of the 14 funds to be balanced by year end, and we are taking actions as we have discussed previously with the fire services assessment. And we'll go into that in a little more detail as we go through the presentation. I will mention that the manager spoke to how complex and challenging budgets are. You remember well that we 7 years ago were in COVID, multiple hurricanes, national economic distress. Seems like we've come back to some of that in some form or fashion, but our resources always respond to the challenges that we have. And what's most important is meeting those strategic planning goals that you've given us that are so important. I would like to discuss some good news. For the second year in a row, Area Development Magazines has named Tallahassee one of the top metro areas for economic strength and competitiveness. We looked in depth at the evaluation, and it is really a credit to the larger community, but also then to where we are as a government. We're the ninth largest city in Florida. Among the 20th largest cities, we have the lowest millage rate. And as you well know, when we do the municipal cost comparison, our basket of goods is also lowest among those comparables that we use that provide similar services to us. And so again, with that area development recognition, they cover corporate site selection and relocation and ranks 410 cities nationally. They look at business climate, job growth, and workforce. And of all those metro areas, Tallahassee ranks 4th overall, 2nd in the South Atlantic region, and 3rd in the small metro locations. So again, Tallahassee remains one of the strongest economies in the nation, and so we want to still continue to support that and build on that as we consider development of our budget. The fiscal year 26 budget, we'll review confirmed budget assumptions that we've discussed with you in the last meeting, and how they project going forward. And then there is extensive discussion to eliminate property taxes. Just yesterday, there was an announcement that the Senate President leadership wanted a study completed before year end to replace property taxes. Wants to delve into that even more so based on the conversations that center around that. As part of this process, we'll ask you to accept the second quarter budget update. We have some amendments that we'll ask you to approve to keep the fiscal year 25 budget up to date, primarily in the capital areas, and then provide any additional direction for developing the fiscal year 26 budget. Very familiar. I've challenged our staff to come up with a different view or interpretation of this because it's become the norm, but it is I think it is a strong representation of where we are among our 14 funds. Very quickly, you can look at what each fund represents as far as services that are provided. You're able to see what the budget is for that fiscal year, what actions are important to monitor as we go through the fiscal year, and then very quickly, as we go through our assessment of where we are, whether we expect to balance the budget, represented by the green ellipses. Yellow, we consider that there needs to be monitoring, and then red requires action. And we would have recommended that had we seen anything that resulted in that. As you look down the 14 funds, you know our general fund is critical to police and parks and recreation, roads and sidewalks, human services. And again, all of that is centered around property taxes, which I'll delve into a little bit more in the presentation. We've got one of the funds, fire, as we've discussed with you, that's in yellow. We're under contract with Accenture. They've got the data that they need for the factors that affect that assessment and fee environment. The collective bargaining agreements, the contracts for new fire stations and improvements at another fire station, increasing debt service, and then the strategic plan goals that have been adopted in January for improving the ISO rating from a 3 to a 2 to realize insurance savings for the community. We just spoke with Leon County this last week. We're on track for them to be able to report at their May agenda item and then advertise in June, and we'll bring back a balanced budget for the fire services fee in our June 11th workshop. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the 12 enterprise type funds that are working well. They are managed well. They have the flexibility to make decisions, and in an environment that we're in where there's discussion of reduction in grant funds or tariffs, they have the flexibility to be able to respond. And so we feel comfortable that during fiscal year 25, their funds will be balanced at year end.
Madam Chair. Robert, could you go into a little bit more detail about our planning for things like the tariffs and how these funds are flexible given, the uncertainty?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Generally, we've met those challenges in the past, and so we're confident that we're in a good position. The changing environment is a challenge, and so we don't buy too much into a certain path. I will say that I mentioned the departments have some flexibility, and especially in purchasing. We've looked at and see that a lot of what we purchase is domestic, and we are not beholden to any one brand or series of goods that will require us to have to absorb those costs. When we have had to absorb those costs, we've done so successfully. I'll ask Amy McLean has been looking into this more closely, and she may have some that was kind of a 10,000-foot level. She may have some of the details behind what we've considered.
If you could lean into your mic so that those who are listening could hear you as well. Thank you.
Yes, we certainly would use some of the same strategies we've used when we've tackled these issues before: high inflation, increased labor costs, revenue reductions after COVID, recovering after storms. And as always, we're going to continue to do a close monitoring of revenues and expenses during the year and make adjustments as necessary. We also continue to add efficiencies so that as there's pressures economically, we can keep costs low, as we've done successfully for for years now. And the continued focus on the strategic plan allows us to stay focused on our mission, even with a lot of these things changing. But one of the things that Robert brought up is certainly the strategic spending choices. And we took a quick review of some of the goods that are going to be at issue. And when you start to look at what we buy, the types of vehicles we buy, and the kinds of large expenditures in concrete, and a lot of this is domestically purchased, and a lot of our brands are domestic as well. So I think it's difficult certainly to predict at this point even how long the duration of this will be, because things keep evolving very quickly. So whether there's going to be a significant impact overall is still probably not sure of, but we have the strategies and the considerations and the flexibility, as you said, to make strategic spending choices when we need to protect the city from any additional cost and keep our costs low. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, thank you. We've also taken into consideration some changes in grants from FEMA. And if I could take another minute to ask Max Stout to kind of give our approach in that regard. I'll take that time also.
Yeah, no, thank you, Robert. I appreciate that. As you may have heard, the BRIC grant was removed, so that's no longer available. However, that is just but one tool that we have, and that's a FEMA administered program. So we also have available to us HMGP, which is Hazard Mitigation Grant Program. And the city's actually been very successful with HMGP in the past. For the past 5 years or so, we've received about $6 million through that grant program. So even though BRIC is no longer available to us, and we certainly would have preferred that it stay that way, we can take those same types of projects and applications that would have potentially been eligible for BRIC and then apply them towards HMGP. And for better or worse, our community, of course, has been impacted by a number of disasters, whether it was the tornadoes, the hurricanes over the past few years. And the positive side of that, if you can say, is that that enables our county and our region to be eligible for additional HMGP dollars. So that's the positive side of it, is that even though we've been impacted, we're going to receive, or at least have the ability to apply for and compete for dollars that'll make us stronger and be able to invest in those types of projects that will make our community more resilient and safer for these types of events in lieu of, having that BRIC opportunity.
How much has the city lost?
So at this time, we didn't have any BRIC programs that were active. Okay. We had a couple applications that were, one was that we had put in and one that we were considering. They totaled, I don't have the exact number in front of me, but it was about a couple $1 million a piece. And then, but again, we have for HMGP, for the tornadoes and hurricanes Debbie and Helene, our community, our region will receive about $15 million of available funding to compete for. So even though we would like to have had all of that available, we will have those HMGP dollars to offset anything that we were not able to apply for under BRIC.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, so careful consideration goes into where we are and what impacts are currently in place in fiscal year 25. That directs us then as we go forward into fiscal year 26. Great credit to the analysts, but also to the departments who work closely with us in submitting these applications and pivoting to other new funding sources, to having the purchasing flexibility and then decision-making to then know that, okay, here's how we're going to arrive at a balanced budget. As part of this fiscal year 25 evaluation, there are 5 amendments that we're recommending for this fiscal year. They're primarily in our capital programs. One is the North Apron Improvement and Development Project, where we're recommending from some funding that's available from other projects within aviation. There's an air carrier apron improvement project that requires a local match, and so that also then it's time to add that match to that project. Electric has two project amendments. Transmission and distribution costs for contractor and material costs have gone up, but they're within the fee structure of Electric's RR&I funding, and then new service installations for $2.2 million is recommended as a budget amendment. And then finally, Hyleman Facility Master Project has available funding for some upgrades to wear and tear on their facility, on their common space, common rooms. And so we would recommend those 5 updates so that we can keep meeting the high service levels in each of those areas.
And we'll deal with those once you're done.
Yes, we can do that as the last step. Thank you for that. So as we verify the fiscal year 25 budget status, we also evaluate the landscape for fiscal year 26. In the second workshop, we've confirmed some major assumptions. We're absolutely expecting, we're absolutely having no change in the city's millage rate of 4.42. And as I mentioned, that's a benchmark of ours that is lowest in among the top 20 municipalities in the state, the largest municipalities. Workforce is a lot of reason why we can be successful in our endeavors and our meeting the service standards that we have. And so we've recommended a 4% raise for general employees, and that includes then raises for police and fire per the collective bargaining agreements. As we succeed in our strategic planning goals, we also recognize that new staffing is required to expand some service levels, primarily at new facilities and in our effort to reduce violent crime. In fire, we've got 50 FTEs in total that are expected to be brought online in fiscal year 26, 24 for the new fire station, 17, and then expansion at Station 15. You'll recall that we brought 12 on board at an early stage so that hiring could begin, so they'd be in place as we open up that fire station. And that was approved as part of the fiscal year 25 budget. And then 26 fire personnel are planned for improving ISO ratings in fiscal year 26. In public safety, for the prevention of violent crime, there's 20 new officers that have been defined in the strategic plan as our goal of increasing annually by 5% for the next 5 years. And then we want to continue wraparound services in Tempo and TIFLA and the regional crime center and the team program. And then again, as we've discussed, Parks and Recreation personnel, there are 12 FTEs. We have 6 that are planned for the new senior center, and then 6 for maintenance of the 100 parks. As we expand those, as we have expanded those parks, we want to maintain the amount of attention and detail that goes into supporting those parks and making them available for the community. With these new positions in the general fund and inflationary pressures and increases in cost in healthcare, we are looking at a preliminary projected deficit of $3.5 million to $5 million. But we will come to our June 11th workshop with a recommended balanced budget based on the analysis that we're going to do over the next months. You'll recall that a lot of the information that informs the budget comes into place as we go through the fiscal year, as the legislative session ends, as the property appraiser and tax collector identify estimated growth, as state sales tax returns come in. And so we'll bring those estimates that we have in place now to bear with actual information so that we can bring a balanced budget in June. Part of that analysis also is working with the departments to see where efficiencies have occurred and where changes can be made in their expenditures to offset any changes in revenues. With the with the as we go through the budget development, probably the biggest, consideration as we go forward is the discussion of affecting property taxes. It's on. You'll recall that we had a constitutional amendment that was passed that capped the growth in homestead exemption. It was a cap of 3%. It caps it by the consumer price index. And so just for relative perspective, when we look at a 3% cap in fiscal year 25, we're now looking in fiscal year 26 at a cap of potentially 2.4%. Not a great amount. It's not anything that we can't overcome, but as we go through multiple years, that could grow to a larger amount affecting our property taxes. And so that is one item that is in place already. We're forecasting on how to address that as we go through in planning future budget years. But now there's further discussion about either eliminating property taxes or further restricting property taxes. That discussion is squarely in the face of that all of our property tax revenue is devoted to the police department. It represents 95% of our police budget. With a property tax rate set at 4.42 mils, that generates in fiscal year 25 $71.7 million. And then on the expense side, our police budget is $75.9 million, and so that's the 5% difference right there. We make up that difference with sales tax and state revenue sharing and other user fees. However, those are also then devoted to Parks and Recreation, Human Services, roads, and sidewalks. And so this discussion presents a great challenge for us. And just to kind of layer on with other considerations is that we have additional investments that we want to make in our police department, technology to support the additional staffing, that's in the strategic plan goals, and then our efforts to continue to reduce violent crime that have been very successful.
Has there been any discussion at this point? I haven't heard it, if it has been, about what will replace that revenue source?
I haven't heard an answer that would close that gap. Yeah. We are aware of other, when you look at how we fund fire, we might look towards something similar for police. However, because fire is done on a benefit unit, it's based on the benefit to a piece of property that you're preserving that property. That wouldn't be an appropriate source. A police fee would be ideal that we could put in place, and there are instances where there are municipal services fees that are potentially available in legislation, in current law. But again, I've also heard then that sales tax is a consideration for a reduction, but because that would seem like a natural other source of revenue if that did change. Applying sales tax to visitors or tourists is something that's been floated, but I don't know what the economics behind that is and how that would close the gap.
Thank you, Robert.
So we're tracking these proposals closely, exploring any options that we can arrive at for replacing a revenue source if we needed to, because we know that we want to continue to deliver critical services. And part of the reason why we want to deliver critical services is because we've been successful. Mm-hmm. Your priority has been in reducing violent crime. You've made an investment, and we've seen results. With the focus on critical areas such as public safety and gun violence, there's proactive, immediate actions that we've been able to take, generational interventions that divert pathways to crime, and it's yielded significant results. We've had a 20.1% reduction in violent crime from 2023 to 24, and then measurable as of February 2025. Total crime incidents have declined 40% when compared to the same period in 24. Added officers, greater use of technology, collaborative efforts, and then long-term solutions that you've put in place for addressing programs like Tempo or T-Flow or Team or the Regional Crime Center are seeing results. And so again, that just only underscores the importance of the property taxes that we devote to this and/or identifying something that would replace that. Not forgotten, as part of this budget process is we've continued investment in human service funding. In fiscal year 25, we have $3.8 million of city funds and $2 million of county funding that are distributed to agencies through the CHSP process. That gets leveraged into tens of millions of dollars of then programs throughout the community. Fiscal year 26 is the second year of that process of the citizens review teams that approve funding, and we've got the commitment to continue that $3.8 million and the county also for $2 million in county funding to distribute to those agencies. We adopted that plan in September of 2025, and again, that is supported by our general fund in its entirety. Here's kind of an overview of a few of the bills that we're tracking. I think these have been discussed broadly, but I think what I'd like to point out here is that in the case of the first bill, House Bill 787 and Senate Bill 996, the effective date of that is for July 1st, 2025, and so it does go into effect pretty quickly if it does progress. The remaining three require a constitutional amendment, and so those, in all probability, would, if they are adopted, would then go to that vote and be in place for the following fiscal year. The joint resolution 773, the second, revising how homestead property is assessed. I'll give you just an example of that. If we applied that requirement to our fiscal year 25 budget, that would have been a $2.5 million reduction in property taxes that we could have collected in 2025, in fiscal year 25. So again, that's just a sampling of the bills that we're monitoring and planning for in as much regard as we can as we go forward.
Robert, if I could
Yes.
ask a question, I know it's not listed here, but we know that there's some discussion about CRAs. And in some of that discussion, it has been whether those CRAs, if the bodies are the same, could those dollars just fold into a GR and be used to fund programs? Have you heard any of that conversation? And maybe in the back of your mind, thinking about if that happens, what happens?
Yes, we are monitoring that bill. We have looked at the obligations that are in place, and so those, depending upon how the bill is written, those obligations may continue for a period of time, and so we would have to decide if there's anything that's a lot of what the CRA has done is made agreements to use that money in those areas. And so I don't know what the balance would be if that would help our general revenue situation.
All right, just wanted to kind of get your just preliminary thoughts on that because it is afloat. Yeah, so, all right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. With that background, I will, as we always do, we recognize that there's significant impacts that are out there that are on the horizon. We know that we are resourceful as an organization. We're ready to respond to whatever comes at us. Getting getting rid of property taxes would be a big lift, but we would come back with some recommendation. And so we're always constantly evaluating where we are, that we have sound financial plans in place and practices in place, and we'll continue to respond. We've got some upcoming dates that are critical for us with June 1st preliminary property tax valuation received from the property appraiser. We've got a workshop that follows 10 days later where we'll bring a balanced budget. We then get certified property valuation 20 to 30 days later. And then we have adoption of our budget September 3rd and September 17th. As option one, we're recommending that you accept the second quarter budget update as presented. We'll ask you to approve those 5 amendments that are in the item. And then on top of that, we'll be ready to answer any questions that you have about preparation of the fiscal year 26 budget.
All right, Robert, thank you so much for the presentation. And once again, I want to thank the team. Y'all work hard year-round. We certainly do appreciate it. Thanks, everybody, for all your hard work. Hey, Robert, if I was over there, I bet you got a little smudge or something on your, you want to just brush that off a little bit? What is that?
You know,
Oh, that's a University of Florida gator.
I said I didn't need to bring that to the table.
Yeah, you just kind of subtly giving it to us. I see. I got you. All right. There's something to be said about allegiances. I got you.
Got to celebrate national championships when we can for as long as we can.
There we go. Well, as a result, though, you get all the hard questions today. Okay. Let's go ahead and open it up for discussion and direction. Commissioner Matlow.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Robert, do we have an update, or will we have an update in June on the capital improvement plan? And also just curious about the police station facility in particular, the cost and price projected on that.
Yeah, we'll have the full capital plan at that June 11th meeting. Yeah, we'll bring details of the progress of the, as we mentioned in the past, we have been working within where we have been in past years in borrowing, so that as we refinance and or debt has been reduced over time, by paying that debt off in the general government, the police station fits right into that then subsequent years of what we'll be paying. And so we'll have a balanced budget with the debt service for the police station.
Okay, yeah. I'm most curious of just knowing the total cost that is expected to be incurred from start to finish, where we're at on that. I know that seems to be a moving target, and just want to make sure we're dialing that in. I wanted to speak a bit on the proposals for property tax. That wouldn't affect this fiscal year that we're planning for, but the earliest that could go into effect would be after the 2026 election.
So the constitutional amendment that was just passed in November goes into effect in 2026. And so the property appraisers evaluating CPI for the June 1st evaluation.
Sorry, I'm on the proposals to eliminate it completely or to.
July 1.
Those would go into effect.
26, 27, correct?
27 would be the fiscal year that we would be impacted by any change
27,
by
28.
constitutional amendment.
So we have a little time. I think they have a very high bar to cross, 60%, to eliminate property taxes generally. I think the homestead exemptions increases are probably more palatable for a lot of people. But I do think in the tandem conversation that they're having across the street between property taxes and sales taxes, I think what's being proposed, particularly by the Speaker of the House, makes more sense to more people. I know we won't all agree on what reductions, what spending reductions would make sense to hit those targets, but I think it may be prudent on us as a municipality to look at supporting these kind of common sense tax reductions on sales tax. We know people who work paycheck to paycheck spend almost the entirety of their earnings outside of the rent they pay, paying sales tax, and I think that impact would be a lot greater. So as those conversations bear fruit, so to speak, I think it may be, if it becomes, we're trying to decide between which way the state government wants to reduce their own revenues, taking a position on that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Sure. Mr. Manager for comment.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Commissioner,
Thank you for those comments. I think what we should do as staff is share some information. We haven't done that today, but part of our general revenue is sales tax sharing, and it's a relatively significant portion. So the proposal that I understand exists would impact that. And so just so you're armed with the information, after this meeting, we'll send an update to the commission to indicate how much of that in our general revenue is sales tax sharing. So of course, Robert talked about the amount of property tax, and if that went away in total, we understand what that would be, but a portion of our revenue is also sales tax sharing from the state.
Commissioner Matlow.
Thank you, Mayor. And one more question on the general fund property tax reduction as it relates to the police department. We're still, the state law still, we don't have the ability to reduce expenditures on law enforcement. Is that correct?
There was a House bill that restricted the reduction of I don't know the status of
I don't
of that
know either.
because they have been
I
challenged.
recall.
I think I can add a little help here. It's not prohibited, but it does potentially invoke a process if we reduced it by more than, I believe it's 10%. So there's some rules that limit the city commission's ability to simply reduce it without some kind of oversight process.
Okay, yeah, that's helpful. I just bear in mind as if our revenues get stripped away, what recourse we actually have to provide services and where to find that funding is a very strong question. And does that put us in a position where we have to eliminate everything else just to meet those directives? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Real quick, looking for recommended action. Is there a motion for?
So moved.
All right,
Second.
properly moved by the Mayor Pro Tem, seconded by Commissioner Richardson.
Sorry. Before you take action, we did have one speaker, so we probably need to take the speaker if you're getting ready to take a vote on something.
Well, we traditionally don't take speakers at workshops, but, you know, it's early on. We have one, so we can do it.
Okay. At your discretion, I'll just,
Sure.
an action item. So we have one speaker, and that's Marcus Sims. You may. Okay.
Right up here to the podium,
Speakers come
please,
to
sir.
this podium right here next to me, and you'll have 3 minutes, and I will give you a heads up when you have 30 seconds left.
And your name and address for the record, please.
Absolutely. Well, my name's Marcus Sims. How's everybody doing this morning? Doing good. Hey, I wanted to speak, man. I'm from here, born and raised, Tallahassee, Florida. I want to say I love my city, Leon County. Stand up. Tallahassee is a great place to be. It's an all-American city. It's itty-bitty, but it's polity, but it's my city. You know what I mean? We got a 4 for 4 like Wendy's. We don't miss. Mental health is real. You know what I mean? It's Mental Health Awareness Month, and I think that everybody who has mental health should be taken care of. The reason is because mental health is part of my life. Don't blame me, blame anxiety, you know, especially for a black man. We all know that black men are people that are misunderstood and used in the system to hurt others. Now, I'm a black man. I grew up in a great home. Everybody, a lot of people know my family. Alice Sims, Ernie Sims Jr., Ernie Sims III. I'm very fortunate to have them as parents. One of the best things about me is I know that mental health has the trajectory to change this state, change this city, change this country. Now, I am a freestyle poet, and I'm gonna show it, but I wanna thank everybody for the time to speak today. And I also want to say that mental health needs to be the agenda for this month, every year, and every year after that. Thank you very much. Y'all have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, we're back on Commissioner discussion. Motion on the table. I got Commissioner Porter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was wondering if we have any thoughts about, I know this is for, I believe, a future budget year or cycle, but I wanted to get a pulse on where we are with CHSP funding, knowing that I believe Leon County is planning to eliminate the youth and family category beginning for the next cycle starting in the spring. And I know that there was a workshop, and I believe the Mayor Pro Tem attended. And so I just wanted to ask if we have an update or any assumptions going into the next cycle, because I've expressed this before, and I just want to put it on record, even if we're not discussing it for this budget cycle, that especially given the cuts in grants to a lot of our local nonprofits who are providing essential services, I would love to see us, when we're sharpening our pencils, for that to be something that we certainly protect, do not decrease funding, and if anything, would like to see or increased funding. So can anyone speak to that?
Robert? Sounds good. Kimball Thomas, how you doing, sir?
Great, Mayor.
Thanks for joining us. What's the status of the CHSP funding, and in particular, the discussion that's going on regarding the...
Right, Commissioner Porter, you mentioned with respect to the meeting that was attended by Mayor Pro Tem Williams-Cox and my staff as well. At this juncture, we've been in collaboration with them. They're taking something back to their board, I believe, in July, so we'll have a better update at that time.
Okay, so what are we thinking, though?
Well, we have those categories already set in place. We've been hearing, the conversation again from CSC and the county about what a realignment might look like. So those are the kind of collaborative discussions we're having thus far, and we'll see what happens, how the county goes in July, and look at what that alignment could possibly look like.
And Mr. Mayor, if I could
Sure,
piggyback
Mayor Pro Tem.
from that meeting, Commissioner Porter, we presented an opportunity for CSC to partner, have greater partnership with us. And at that time, there did not seem to be a great interest in doing that with us. There was some discussion about them being statutorily required to do some things, and that they were not sure that they could do a further collaboration with us. So they were going to check with their legal counsel, and no one's made any contact with me as to what they determined. So there may have been some discussion among staff, but I made sure that I took the sentiments that we're not asking for money. We were here to provide some additional collaboration, because I think that there may have been some misunderstanding that we were there asking for something other than what we were asking for. And so I'm hoping that they've got their answer by now, or we'll have their answer, and we'll know where to go as far as we're concerned. But as I understand, we're not eliminating any categories, to my knowledge.
Thank you.
Right.
Dr. Thomas, thank you. I also share the sentiments of Commissioner Porter. I am not interested in the elimination of those categories. They're too important in our community. I think personally that we need to preserve them to be able to move forward. I'm very conscious of the conversation that's taking place. I appreciate your representation as well, but it's going to take a lot to convince me that we start eliminating categories through our CHSP funding. And I understand the conversation in regards to the CSC. It will be interesting to see how that plays out as well. And again, I appreciate you representing us in those discussions as well. Commissioner Porter, you still have the floor.
That's all for me. Thank you.
All right, we have a motion on the table. We got Mayor Pro Tem.
I just want to thank the staff, start with the leader, the city manager and the deputy city manager and all the ACMs and everyone who plays a part in making this happen. And those of you who come to the table, it's kind of like the front line. And for those of you sitting in the audience who are supporting, I am very comfortable. I don't lose any sleep at night, because I know you guys are doing your jobs. And as a lady that I worked with a long time ago said, what gets measured, it gets monitored. And if it's getting measured and monitored, it's going to get done. And you've exemplified that many times at this table, and even today, with all the things that the earth shakes around us. You're here calm, you're quiet, the sky is not falling. You've given some thought to, if this happens, then this will occur. If we lose funding here, we're looking at an opportunity for funding here. That's always very good and very confident. I think that our residents should also be confident in this fact that you all are on your game. you're experts, you're doing what you need to do, and it's being recognized that we're not losing services in our community as a result of everything that's going on. The lights are still coming on, the water's still coming out, we're still doing what we need to do, and I think that it's a testament to us living in this community and all of us doing what our roles are to make sure that we're delivering high-quality service to our residents, all 200,000 plus those who are outside of the city limits. So I just want to say kudos and thank you from the top to the bottom, and to all of our appointed staff as well, the roles that you all play. It's a family affair, and we're doing our part in the family, and I thank you guys for what you're doing.
Commissioner Richardson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ditto to what the Mayor Pro Tem has said. I have been, in all the years that I've been here, I've been impressed by the leadership that we have, and that's why we have been designated twice in All-America City and nominated 3 times. And I feel confident that we're going to be among the number when we go out to Denver in June. But I want to commend staff, Robert, you and your staff, for the work that you do, the leadership provided by the city manager and his staff, because all of the things that we've been able to accomplish because of the work you do. If the money wasn't there, if the resources weren't there, we wouldn't see the reduction in crime that we're seeing now. So I would be very hesitant to want to, because public safety is such a priority for us, to see us do anything to harm the progress that are making in that regard. And so I look forward to continuing to work with you all in that respect. It sounds like you're on top of everything that we can likely have to deal with. And so we'll see what comes out of the Capitol in a few weeks. But I think that you all are well prepared, whatever direction it goes in, to handle that and make sure that we have the resources to continue to provide the quality services that we provide for our citizens here in the city of Tallahassee and indeed in our area. Mr. Mayor, let me know if this is relevant to today's discussion, but we had a CRTPA meeting yesterday, and as a part of that was a presentation on the Safe Routes to Schools initiative. And what we saw was that there are a number of schools in our community where improvements need to be made. Some of them, according to Greg Slay, our executive director, are the low-hanging fruit, crosswalks and other things that won't be expensive, but some of them were sidewalks, which we knew, or which we know can be and will be expensive to address. And so I guess my question would be, I don't know if that would be appropriate for this budget cycle or as we plan for the next budget cycle, how we would address those issues that were raised in that presentation for how we make sure that our children are able to get back and forth to school
Commissioner Richardson, that's a great point. Mr. Manager, do you have comment?
Yes, sir. I think I can share some information. Commissioner, it's a good point, and you'll recall several budget cycles ago, you updated your strategic plan to expand investment in sidewalks every year to 10 segments. And we've made a lot of progress in adding sidewalks to some of our schools most in need. And so that's part of our priority look. And so we've expanded our efforts related to new sidewalks. That's been underway for now 3 or 4 years. And we also are very aggressive seeking grants to help us in that. We've been successful in that. So that progress is underway. And I think it'll continue to work well and is intended to exactly meet the needs you're describing. So I think the priorities in place. I think the funding strategy is in place, as well as the strategic efforts to try to find funding anywhere we can. So I think we're happy to bring an update in the next budget item related to those efforts, if that's acceptable.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I would be interested in us being presented with what the plan is going forward and the funding that will be needed to implement that plan. because we can't afford to lose even one life of any of our children as they are trying to make their way to school to get an education. And so that really stuck with me when I left that presentation yesterday and what that means for our community. So if we could get that, Mr. City Manager, I would appreciate it. Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
As the chair of the CRTPA, let me just piggyback on that. There were many things, though, that were inexpensive. The sidewalks, of course, was the most expensive, but there are some other things that are painting crosswalks and doing those kinds of things. Those things were inexpensive, and we were assured that that information has been shared, and they've been working with our staff to identify and come up with strategies for doing some of those things. So anybody listening, I would want you to know that there are some things that can be done that's not very impactful on budget, but of course the sidewalks would be the most expensive. It sounds like we do have a strategy for that.
We have a motion on the table that was made for staff recommendation, made by the Mayor Pro Tem, seconded by Commissioner Richardson. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the motion passes. No other business come before us. Thank you all so much. Thank you all so much. Job well done. We have a regularly scheduled city commission meeting at 3 o'clock. We are adjourned.